Greetings. We're on the 25th day of Elul 5775 countdown at Tapuach Square. I guess you have to come out for the new year. Hope you all be there with could be maybe Lenny Clark, or was that Dick Clark?
Dick Clark.
Kid of blessed memory, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyways, happy birthday to the world. This is today is the birthday of the world, 25th day of Elul. The world was created. 6 days later, on Rosh Hashanah, first day of Tishrei, the man was created on the 6th day of creation, which is the Rosh Hashanah. That's why it's Judgment Day, just like the first man, Adam, was judged on the first day, messed up on the first day. So too, that has become the Day of Judgment on the bloody morning after. So happy birthday to all. We're on part 3 here of homosexuality, same-sex marriages, Torah outlook, Judaism outlook on the subject. Just to recap, last week we saw that the Torah relates three to four generations, early generations of the world: the flood, Noah's generation, Sodom and Gomorrah, that generation, in Egypt, and also the people that lived in the land of Israel, called the Canaanites. What's common with these four groups of people was the practice of recognition of same-sex marriages and also homosexuality. The Jewish people are warned before they go into the land of Israel after the exodus of Egypt. They were warned not to go in the path of Egypt and the people of Egypt and the people of Canaanites. We discussed last week, where does this stem from? You always have to look at the root cause. You know, when you have a problem, you don't pop an aspirin, Advil or something. You have to look what the root cause of your problem is, you know. Popping aspirins ain't going to help you much. So what's the root of these nations, Egypt and also Canaan? Very interesting. We saw that was the son of one of the three sons of Noah, which was Ham, and he was the person that after the flood was over and his father was intoxicated after drinking wine, he, according to the Talmud, he either created a situation, he did a procedure on his father that would not allow him to have any more children, or the second opinion of Chazal, the rabbis, is that he had homosexual relations with his father. So we see very clearly, when you look at the head, you could see where the rest of the body is coming from. So Egypt and also Canaanites are descendants of Ham, of that son of Noah. So that's where it stems from. We started last week talking about something in the prophets. In the end of the book of Judges, here comes the judge. In the end of the book of Judges, we talk about the case where there was a man that was having a little bit marital difficulties. It's called Pilegish Begiva in Hebrew, and they came to their parents' house, and there they got reunited together after a couple of days spending time with their folks. They left. It was almost Shabbat. The time was ticking, and my uncle has a great expression that it's not Shabbat without the Friday afternoon rush. So, you know, if you're not under pressure, it's just not Shabbat. You have to have that pressure, or you're going to make it. Time's ticking. Anyways, so it was coming, time was ticking, and they found a community in Binyamin. It was the hilltop of Binyamin. They go there. No one. They were guests, of course, because they didn't know anybody there. Nobody accepted them into their houses. Very nice. And not only did they not accept them in the houses, there was only one elderly fellow that accepted them. And shortly afterwards, some of the town had decided to surround the building, and they demanded that that the the elderly resident of the town of Benjamin would send out this man. They wanted to have relationships. Kind of rings a bell in what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom. And anyways, to make a long story short, eventually the guest pushed out his wife, and there the townspeople, some of them had relations, and they raped her, and they eventually led to her death. The next morning she came back to the house, to the guest house, where she passed out and passed away. The Jewish people decide, the 11 tribes, excluding Binyamin, who did not show up to the meeting, they decided they were, because Benjamin is not willing to do anything about these people in their own tribe, take care of justice. So the Jewish people decided to do justice against Benjamin. They had 3 rounds of war. In the first 2 rounds, the 11 tribes, the majority, lost to the underdog of Benjamin. It was only on the 3rd round that the 11 tribes finally got their act together and almost wiped out entirely the tribe of Benjamin. The tribe of Benjamin was 26,000 strong. They eliminated 25,100 people, so there was only a small amount of Benjamites left. Okay, the last point that we made, and then we finished it, and we'll go on from there today. Last point was, why? Why did the Jewish people fall? It seems like they were doing a very proper act. They went out to try to eliminate evil. And we know that it says in Psalms, Ovei Hashem sinura, people that love Hashem hate evil. So one of the tests to see if you really love Hashem is how much you hate evil. So this was pretty evil. When they take a woman and they rape her, which is bad enough. Number 2, they want to have homosexual relations with this guest. It's bad enough. Number 3, eventually she dies. So we have a lot of pretty serious stuff going on over here. Jewish people wanted to do what's right, it seems, and they fall. Something doesn't click here. So it says in Gomorrah, Sanhedrin 102, it says something very interesting, a tremendously Jewish idea, we might call it. It says that the fact was that when somebody wants to do judgment, when somebody wants to carry out some kind of zealous actions, you better be clean. Because if you're not clean, then they're going to check you. They're going to check you, and if you're not going to, we know that once people start checking you, you're really in bad shape. That's why it says in the Torah that the blessing is always in something hidden from the eye. Things that you cannot see them, they have the blessing there. When something comes public, when a person is caught, and then they start checking you and going through your records, you're really in bad shape. You're in hot water. There's not too many people will be able to, once they get you, not too many people will be able to stand up to the check. So you want to try to stay away from those checks. So it says here that the Jewish people, they were doing a great thing. They were doing a great thing, trying to go out to war against the tribe of Benjamin. However, they're being checked. And when Hashem checked them out, because they want to do an action here of what we would call Chassidut, which means beyond the letter of the law, not something that they have to do, but something beyond that. You want to be a righteous person, so you're going to be checked to see if you really are righteous. Or maybe your actions stem from other considerations. So they checked the Jewish people, the 11 tribes, and they found out that, very interesting, here they're gung-ho. Here they're gung-ho to fight against this evil, but where have they been all the years? See, in the time of the judges, there's the idol worshipping of Micha that's going around. It's going around all different towns in Israel. It's traveling around, making its appearance, like Barnum and Bailey. Kind of like a circus. So it's making the rounds, and everyone's okay with that, There's idol worshiping. It's a slap in the face, so to speak, to God. But, that doesn't bother us too much. When people are hurt, that really, that really bothers us. That really bothers us. So the Talmud says an unbelievable concept. Because of the fact that when it came to the honor of God, they kept quiet. They didn't do anything to eradicate, to eliminate the idol worshipping of Micha. Because of the fact that they kept quiet when it came to God's honor, and it's only when man's honor was on the line that they woke up. So Hashem said, well, if that's the way it's going to be, you're going to fall. You're going to fall because you're not pure. Your actions are not 100% pure. There are things that you also have that are way off. So maybe check yourself before you go check others first. That's what we talked about pretty much last week. So we're going to go on. We're going to go on here. Okay, now, on this concept, there's an unbelievable, I advise to put on seatbelts because I think we still don't have insurance here. Yarot Dvash, Rav Yonatan Eifshitz writes in his classic work, he writes in his seventh Torah piece. Seventh Torah piece. He writes the following. He writes that the prophet Jeremiah, he says in chapter 8, verse 22, says the following, that there's a place in Israel, it's called Gilad, place in Israel, it's the east part of Israel, towards the east of the Jordan. It's called Gilad. And that area was famous for its I think they're called Persomen, special bomb that came from that part of Israel. In fact, if we look in the Ketoret, which was given twice a day to in the times of the temple, one of the 11 spices of the Ketoret was this sori, which I think it's called permissin, afar simon in Hebrew, and it's like a rosin, kind of like when I used to play violin, there's like a rosin in your bow, So it says, the prophet Jeremiah says that we cannot find any of this sori in the Gilad area, and we cannot find any doctors. We cannot find any health. Why has the Jewish people's wound, so to speak, carried on this long? The prophet Yirmiyahu looks out at the generation and he sees that the Jewish people are suffering. He sees the Jewish people are suffering, and he notices that the reason why we're suffering is because there is no sori in the Gilad area. What does that mean exactly? That's why we're suffering? Because there's not this certain spice that's around that will solve all our problems. There has to be a deeper meaning here. Why are we in such mud? Why are we in such dire straits? What's going on here? So listen to this. It says the following in the tractate of Tanit on the 3rd page. There's the Talmud there discusses an event that happened between Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, and the king Achav. There's an event there that Eliyahu, as we know, was a zealot for Hashem, for God, and he's really ticked off that, this king Achav, he's laughing at Moshe Rabbeinu. Why is he laughing at Moses? He says, listen, Moses says in the Torah that when the Jewish people will go astray, worshipping idols, etc., Hashem will stop the Geshem, will stop the rain from falling. And the king, Achav, looks out and he says, wow, it's raining all the time here. That Moses, he really got that one wrong. And he's laughing, and he doesn't believe in the prophet Moses. Eliyahu sees this, Elijah sees this, and he's freaking out. And he says, I give now a decree. I give a decree that for the next 3 years there will be no rain. There will be no precipitation here in the land of Israel. 3 years. I will show you not to laugh at the prophet Moses. And it says in the verse, in the 17th chapter of the King's Melachim, it says right there at the beginning, it says that they, besides for calling, we're used to the Torah calling him Eliyahu Hanavi, or Eliyahu, or Eliyah, but here it says something unusual. It says here, it says in the verse, Eliyahu mitoshvei Hagilad. He's from the Gilad area. Who cares? Where is he from? I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Williamsburg. I'm from Crown Heights. Where is it? Who cares? You know, Borough Park. Who cares where you're from? Why does the Torah in this place tell us where he's from? From the Gilad. Tosfot, on that page, 3rd page of the Talmud, he asked the question, what's going on over here? And he gives an unbelievable answer. Listen to what he says. He wants us to know that the people of Gilad were killed. When were they killed? They were killed because they were a community that refused to participate in the war against Benjamin. When the people of Israel and the tribes of Israel called all people to come and join and come and meet together at a special meeting place, all the Jewish people from all the tribes came. There was a community that did not come. Where was that community? It was on the eastern side of the Jordan, called Gilad. Yavesh Gilad. They did not show up. So the Tosfot says, the Torah wants you to teach us that to know that Eliyahu was not part of this community. He was from the Gilad, but he did not follow in their footsteps. He did not follow in their footsteps. What does that mean exactly? He didn't follow in their footsteps. Okay, deep breathing. Take a deep breath here. Unbelievable Torah here. I mean, this has to be some kind of like prophecy here. Because I don't know how the holy rabbi could have come up with this. Listen closely. Rav Yonatan Evshik says the following. Why was it that of all the Jewish people, these people of Gilad, Yavesh Gilad, did not come to help the Jewish people fighting against this evil? And he says that they had their reason. They were Torah people. They were scholars. And they said, you know what? Did we say the same thing that the Talmud says? The Talmud says, why were they punished? Okay, this is before it happened. They looked out and they understood that something was wrong here. They understood, the people of Gilad looked into their fellow Jews, and they looked and they said, you know what, something is not on the mark here. Why? Because so many years there's this idol worshipping going down on the idol of Micha, and none of these people are going to war for that. So when it comes to God's honor, they're fast asleep. And therefore, we're not going out to help them. If they were people that also, when it came to commandments between man and God, if they were wholesome on this issue, we would go out and help. But we're not going to go out on principle and help them. Why? Because all that they care about is when a fellow man is abused. That's what bothers them. It doesn't bother them. Hashem doesn't bother them. So we're not going out to fight their battles. Oh. Rav Yonatan goes on. Okay, we got the ideology behind Yavesh Gilad. They're not going out to help these people. They're not God-fearing people. They don't care about God's honor. We're not going to be part of that. What was the ideology behind the Jewish people to go out and fight? It goes on. According to the 11 tribes, God Himself directs us, obligates us to care more about the Jewish people than about God Himself. It's kind of, if we had to put it into some kind of parable, you have a father, right? The father is many, many times willing to, as far as their honor is concerned, they're willing to take a back seat. But, you know what I'm saying, for their children's honor, whoa, okay, I mean, that's my son, that's my daughter. That I'm not going, for my children, if it's myself, I bow down, I prostrate myself, put my head down, no problem. But, hey, you came after my kids? You touched my kids? War. So the Jewish people, unbelievable. They said Hashem is our Father. Hashem is our Father. And He wants us to care more about our fellow Jews than even about God. So therefore, that's why we're going out. You're right. We might be messed up as far as our relation between God. But God Himself wants us to go overboard for our fellow man more than to go overboard for God. Because Hashem could take care of His own honor. But what's going to be about the honor of the Jewish people? And that was the crux of the dispute between Yavesh Gilad and the 11 tribes. That was it. Okay.
That's why Eliyahu Giladi is considered as Kanei Hashem, and like he does a scorn because he wasn't merachem enough on the people. He's considered Kanei Hashem. Kvod Hashem, look how the Ham Yisrael must be. So
we're going to see here. Rav Yonatan takes us on a big turn here. A big turn. Listen to this one. We heard from Lenny, those that heard, talking about, we usually are familiar with Elijah, as a person that's a zealot for God, not necessarily for the Jewish people, not necessarily. But listen to this. Rav Yonatan writes in this book, he continues to go on, that the reason why, right, we talked about the Tosfot, the commentator of the Tosfot says in the Talmud, the reason why that it says, before Elijah decreed 3 years of no rain, the reason why we call him Elijah from Gilad is to tell us that he was not like them. They were people that their flag was the flag of God. And the other 11 tribes, what bothered them was the flag of Israel. That's what bothered them. And the Talmud comes and notices this expression. Why is Eliyahu at this time called? He called it inhabitant of the Gilad. Why? Because of the fact, if you look at it, Achav, the king, is worshiping idols for many years. We didn't hear too much from Elijah the prophet. He's sleeping somewhere. Hey, wake up, Modeani. Hey, Eliyahu, where are you? Hey, look, Achav, he's worshiping idols. But all of a sudden, Elijah sees that the king is making fun of the prophecy of Moses, where it says in the Torah that if you do not follow my mitzvot and my ways, then I will stop the precipitation. There will be no rain. That bothered him when it came to a man of flesh and blood like Moses. That bothered him, and only then did he decree that there should not be precipitation for 3 years. So now, unbelievable, tremendous chidush, tremendously new way of looking at things. That's why the Torah calls him, at this instance, they call him Eliyahu from the area of Gilad. because he was different from all the majority. The majority said, no, our flag is when you come against God, call us up. If not, don't call us up. If people are just coming against the people of Israel, don't call us. Okay? But Eliyahu here, he takes a different approach. He takes the approach of the 11 tribes, and he says, listen, you went and you are cheapening the words of our prophet Moses. You are coming against Moshe of flesh and blood. I'm going to make this decree. So that's why he's called a person of Gilad, to separate him from the regular ideology that was present at the Gilad. Okay, so unbelievable. I'm surprised everyone's still sitting here, have jumped out the windows, etc. Okay, so once again, we have the dispute between the 11 tribes and Yavesh Gilad. We see that there was a question: what comes first, the honor of God or the honor of people? That was the dispute. Ironically enough, we know the ending was not too good for the people of Yavesh Gilad. They were wiped out. They didn't come to fight against Benjamin. They still should have come to fight against Benjamin, because it's true that they were lacking. It's true that the Jewish people were lacking in various services to God. That's true. But still here, there's also another part of Judaism that exists where there's a desecration of God's name by what was done in that hilltop of Benjamin. They still should have come out to help. So therefore they did not, and they were removed. Listen to the next couple of paragraphs of the Rav Yonatan Efshitz. Unfortunately, because of our great sins, in our times, none of this exists. There is no longer a dispute on whose honor we should go after. Should it be God's honor or the honor of people? In our times, Rav Yonatan says hundreds of years ago, in our times, nobody cares at all about the honor of God. Everyone only cares about honor of people. For example, if you speak about one of the leaders, I guess today you might call it politicians or community leaders, if you open up your mouth to speak against them, maybe they're not doing proper things, oh boy, you are going to be punished. Not only that, if the community decides to make some kind of resolution, if you don't follow that resolution, boy, they're going to be up in arms. They're going to be at your house. They're going to toss you out of your house. And on the other hand, when anybody is going against God's will, everybody doesn't recognize this. Nobody's noticing it. Nobody gives. If people are sitting together at a party, he goes on, but one person will say something bad about a person or their family, okay, there could be here a war with weapons, one against the other, okay, fighting. That bothers them. But if we're talking about the holy rabbis of the generation, and some people are bad-mouthing them, everyone will keep silent. And actually they'll probably laugh and says, probably add some gasoline to that fire. And unfortunately, this illness is not just in our community, Rav Yonatan Efshitz said, it's in the entire world. That everyone cares more about the honor of people. And however, when anybody does something against the honor of God, therefore we don't see. Okay, nobody will speak. No one will stand up. People will say, am I a rabbi? Am I an officer? Okay, what do you want from me? And the Torah cries out in the tractate of Psachim 113 that if a person sees that a friend of his or another Jew is doing a sin, you are allowed to hate that person because they're doing sins. In our times, there is no hate at all. If we see a person sinning against God, not only do we not hate them, what the Torah says to do, how we start loving them. And we start to be careful what we're saying. Speak to them in a nice fashion. Listen, this is kind of like out of exactly like today's newspapers or Parsha sheets that you get on Shabbat. Those that can swallow them. And listen to the words the rabbi says here. If you want to know why we're in such bad shape, well, we're coming before Judgment Day, Rosh Hashanah, we're coming before Yom Kippur. Let's know, man. Like, summarize it for me, okay? I can't, don't tell me 10 things. Tell me what's the problem here. What's the main issue? And he's going to tell us what's the main issue. The main issue in our times is that if we would take the position of Yavesh Gilad, if we would take their position, what was their position? That it's more important the honor of Hashem than the honor of people, we would not be in this situation today. If we had a ideology that said it's more important for us, okay, if the honor of God is being stepped upon, trampled upon, that to us is the most important thing. What we are suffering today in the exile would not be. Why? Because then we would have tremendous honor of heaven, and we would have tremendous honor to the Torah and to those that learn Torah, and those that did not keep the laws, they would be separated from the people of Israel, and therefore all our problems would be solved. Thanking this ideology of being zealous for God. And that's why it says in Tractate Brachot on the 20th page that the earlier generations, because they sacrificed their lives in order to sanctify God's name, they had tremendous miracles. And therefore it says, now back to what we said, why is it that the prophet Jeremiah says that there is no persimmon balm, resin in Gilad? Why? Because then there's no doctors. That verse that says there is no health, the Jewish people are just sick and diseased. Why? Because there is no tzori in the Gilad area. What does that mean? There is no zealousness for God's honor in Gilad. We only think about the honor of people. So once again, going back, just to summarize so far, there was a argument between the people of Gilad and the 11 tribes. Should they go out to fight against what was done on the mountaintop, the hilltop of Benjamin? The 11 tribes said, we're going out because of this tremendous sin that took place. What took place over there, many sins took place over there. We're going out to remove this evil from our midst. The people of Gilad said, no, we're not going to join them because of the fact that they don't care as much. They don't care as much when it comes to the honor of God. So because they don't care as much as we do to the honor of God, we're not going to help them either when it comes to the honor of people. So if you look at it, everybody was wrong here. Everybody was wrong here, and that's why they all got whacked. The Jewish people, the 11 tribes, they got smashed twice in war. 40,000 of them passed away, died. 40,000 of them. Why? Because something's off over here. What about God's honor? On the other hand, Benjamin was out of control. They were almost wiped out. What's going on over here? Homosexual activity. What's going on? Almost wiped out. Gilad people, they're just waving there, we have only one item, and that's the item of God's honor, to hell with Israel. But we're, just God's honor. A lot of times you see people, you might say, it sounds a little bit strange. It's not strange at all. You know why? Because if you ever been, I remember once I was in this, I wish it was just once, but sometimes you'll see something like in a synagogue, where when they bring out the Torah, when they lift it up, so a lot of people come to see the Torah, to pay their respects, to come to the Torah, to kiss it, etc. Or when they lift up the Torah, the Arizal writes that if you look at the letters, they bring down tremendous wisdom to a person in their life. So a lot of people come running up. And now it doesn't matter when they're coming running up in order to kiss that Torah, man. It doesn't matter that they just ran you over, baby. It doesn't matter. You don't matter. Because what matters is I got to get my brownie points for kissing that Torah. Man, I got to get my brownie points. I want to become wise. So I'm going to just push you out of my way, guy. Yeah, elbow strength. Elbow grease over there. I'm just going to, it doesn't matter who I run over. This is written in many, many ethical, musar, tremendous books. How people lose all their merit, then they think that they're so great by trampling their way in order to get a few points in God's favor. They come out on the losing end. So this is something that is commonplace. Unfortunately, how many people do we know that make sure that they go to pray every day at a synagogue? On the other hand, they go out and and they cheat people in their work, in their jobs. They go out and cheat people. That doesn't bother them. But they're at that, they're praying at that synagogue, man. They're putting on those tefillin. No problem. When it comes to doing, it's very easy because, God talks to us, but not directly, indirectly. So it's much easier. It's easier for us to get along with God than it is to get along with our fellow man, because our fellow man, sometimes he'll open up his mouth and have a few things to say to us. So then, we have something to say, and then becomes we see our characteristic traits coming out. So anyways, we have all these people. They're all doing the wrong thing. Whichever way you hit it, they were all punished. They were all almost wiped out. Tremendous thing. The idea is to stand on two legs. A person that is whole stands on two legs. And the legs is that we need both flags. We need the flags of pride of the Jewish people. And when the honor of a Jew is trampled upon, we go out to fight. And we also need, when the honor of God is trampled upon, we also are willing to go out. That is the direction. But interesting enough,
like Eliyahu
Navi, he had that both. He would do that both, and that's why he's still around. It says he's still around today. He's hanging around. He's hanging pretty tough. Okay. So therefore, that's why the prophet Jeremiah says that we are not going to become healthy. We are ill. We are sick because of the Gilad. That kind of theory, the Gilad kind of theory of we just care. In our times, we just care about what's going on. If people are affected, that bothers us, but not God. And in his last paragraph, he says the following: to know it is the truth that this illness causes all of our troubles. Please, my brothers, learn from what happened on the hilltop in Benjamin. We see here that even though the Ramban with a Nun Sofit, Nachmanides, he shows that it wasn't the, you can't compare the crime that took place there. It was bad. But the Rambam, we're not going to go into it now, for about 2 or 3 pages he goes and explains the difference. Why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, and how about this community? They were not destroyed at all. Because there's a world of difference between the two cases. So even though they're similar, it looks a little bit similar. Homosexuality activity there, also here, surrounding the building. But if you look into the details, you'll see that they're very, very different. But he says, look to this. Okay, look to this. He says we have to learn from them, even though it wasn't such a clear case that the Jewish people should have gone out to war because of this. And once again, I'm not going to get into all the details why it's not a clear case, but it's not. Take our word for it. Look it up yourselves in the Ramban. But we see here, even though there was not an obligation for the Jewish people to go here and to go out to fight and to war, but we see here for 1,600 kilometers, Arba Meot Parsa, that's 1,600 kilometers. From 1,600 kilometers around, Jewish people gathered together to do what? To fight against this abomination that took place. Okay? What would happen today? Rav Yonatan is asking in his time, what would happen today if such a case occurred? What will we do today? Okay? God forbid, we wouldn't even talk about this. No one is willing to get off of his seat. No one is willing to get off of his seat, to help his fellow person. There's no zealousness, not for the Jewish people, and not for in the good sense, not for the Jewish people, and not for God, and not for his Torah. And therefore, if you're wondering why the fact that God, so to speak, sits quietly, why the Gentiles murder and butcher us, this is the reason here. Because when it comes to the honor of the Jewish people, when it comes to the honor of God, we're sitting down. We're not willing to get up and do something about it, to protest against these actions. So therefore, it's an amazing thing. We're all looking to, maybe I speak too much Lashon Hara. Maybe I'm not very meticulous in Shabbos. These are all important things to correct. Don't get us wrong. But he brings down here the essence. The essence is the question, the crux of the question, the problem that we're suffering for 2,000 years because of the fact that we are lacking, all of us are lacking in these two flags of the honor of the Jewish people, the honor of Torah, the honor of God. When it comes to be trampled upon, we're not there to help. We're not there to protest. We're not there to try to stop these abominations. That's the problem. Okay, that's Rav Yonatan Efshitz. Going right along here. Got a few more minutes here. Well, we're going to see the Holy El Shach. Not too many commentators were given the title of Holy. One of them was the El Shech. El Shech writes in his, he has a small commentary on the prophets. He writes here a few important aspects to understand about what happened in that feud on the hill of Benjamin. Okay, listen to what he says. We see on one hand that a person, according to the letter of law, that what the people did was the wrong thing. When they took this woman and they had relations with her, that was a terrible thing. However, we do not see that they should have received a death penalty for that act. Okay? For that act. So what's going on over here? So why did they go? Because it wasn't a private act. If it was something behind closed doors, okay. But it's not. What bothered the Jewish people here is a tremendous concept. We have to understand there's different levels in the world. There's different concepts of sanctification of God's name. Are there 10 people there? Are there 100 people there? Are there 2 people there? Is it just me and this Gentile here? What's going on over here? We always have to know what's going on. So what bothered the Jewish people, the desecration was here, was the fact that it was done in public. That was something that did bother the Jewish people. If it would have happened just in someone's backyard, okay, it's not good, you have to take care of it, you have to punish the people, of course. But war? They went out to war only because of the fact that when it comes to the fact when there's a desecration of God's name in public, it's different rules of the game. Different rules. Okay, that's number one. It goes on to explain the public atmosphere here, because we see that they went out in the middle of the day in front of everyone, and they asked to bring out this male to have relations with him. And even though it was known that this kind of behavior was an abomination, that didn't bother them. And to create a situation where the world now, CNN, Fox, you name it, they're publicizing, wow, did you hear what happened with the Jewish people? Yeah, they had these, it was like Take Two, Hollywood, like Sodom and Gomorrah, Take Two. That's why they went out to war, because it was a public event where they were asking in the middle of the day, they wanted to have relations, homosexual relations, in the middle of the day, in the middle of the town. And therefore, such behavior, if it's not what they call nipped in the bud, it will continue to get worse and worse. Goes on, the Sheikh. It says that what really should have been was the tribe of Benjamin, right? It's not all the tribe of Benjamin. They would not participate, all of it. In fact, it says it were people, the lowlifes of Benjamin. It wasn't like in Stom when it was everyone that was out there. It was all types of people from all walks of life. Here it was just a certain population of the lowlifes. That's what it says, Bnei Belial. So what should have been is that the tribe of Benjamin should have said, what's going on over here? We have people like this in our community, in our tribe. We're going to take care of this. But that's not what they did. They did not protest, and they did nothing about the situation. And therefore, the fact is, because if you keep silent, then you are actually supporting these acts. Therefore, they became guilty, and they became in a situation that they had to pay via their lives for this action, for this non-action. And even afterwards, even after the Jewish people came and asked they came in peace, and they told Benjamin to do something. And they didn't. They just ignored him, and so therefore that was the fact that was the evilness of Benjamin, that they didn't do anything about what was done. So even though it wasn't them that did it, but they sat back. They kept quiet, and they did not protest, and therefore they're responsible, and they paid dearly via their lives. On the other hand, we see why were the Jewish people punished? It seems like they were doing the right thing. And it says here, as the Talmud brings down, because God was upset the fact that the idol worshipping of Micha was around. And that did not bother them. So even though these people, Benjamin, that did that participated in these acts, they were not on one hand they did not receive a death sentence, okay, but due to the fact that they themselves were not on a high spiritual level, so therefore they paid themselves, okay, with the fact that they were also punished. So we see here that when things are in public, when there's a desecration on a public level, we have a responsibility to go out and to protest against these acts. God's help, we'll be back after Rosh Hashanah, hopefully for the last part of the series here.
Are we back in Shisler? Are we back in Mr.
What?
We're back in Shisler, the fella from the parade.
Okay.
I want to just say just so they can catch the tail end of this video, Kim Davis has a group on Facebook, Support Kim Davis.
She's in the slam.
Kim Davis. They just released her. She actually had no bail, which is interesting. They didn't give her bail, but now I believe they put some weight. Mike Huckabee's on her side, and we were pushing for her, so apparently they did something. Also Glenn Beck. There's an interesting video Glenn Beck has with an attorney that you should watch. It's about 2 minutes long. And then besides that, there's a silent intifada continues up here in the hills, and we'll put a link on this video, not in the direct information about the video. I'll put it in the comments. There's a Jewish paper up here now that's reporting every week on the different terror events that are not being reported in the government-controlled media. So the intifada continues.
The voice of Judah.
Yeah, and I'm bringing it up now only because there was a woman shot from Uri on the way. Well, her car was shot right there.
It was in a root sheva today.
Yeah.
There was a woman who came out of Uri Shiur Rabbi on her way to Kfar Tapuach, and her car was riddled with bullets. So she should have a refuah shleima if she was hurt, and the government should actually, if it wants to defend us, it should do that, and if not, it should disband itself. Thank you.